Faith does not give you a pass to be lazy. It doesn't. And there are a lot of believers who they just use faith to be lazy, justify laziness. You know, they don't keep no records. They don't sit down and concentrate on how to get things in order. You can run the church till the cows come home. But there's some things and obligations you have to do, some due diligence you got to do outside of the church.
That's right.
To function and exist in an earthly world. Because all the shouting and speaking in tongues and hoo ta 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 ta, all you want. When you get through tap dancing, and there's nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. Because the beautiful thing is about worshiping God. He's still worthy of the praise. But you have to come to a point where at some point I got to sit down and balance this checkbook register. I got to sit down and see what bills I got to pay this month and some of them I can get an extension on. I got to keep my receipts showing that I paid my money and a copy of my money order. So if anything come up shaky, I got my records.
That's right.
So we cover those things in the workshop because we got a duty to ourselves. We got to be good stewards over what God has given us. And if he see, like the word of God declares, you know, when you're faithful over a few things, he'll make us rulers over many. So the time for us to recapture what belongs to us anyway. And people run around here. I meet pastors sometimes. They in worse financial shape than the members. But he swear to God, he's a leader. He got to be a leader of his own household. How can you leave me and your car repo, you catching a cab to church?
God.
You catching a cab to preach to me and prophesy to me. A leader has to be an example that makes people aspire to want to follow him. You know, when I see my leader riding up on a nice car, dressed nice, you know, he's responsible. When he pull his card out at the restaurant or at the store, it's clicking. It ain't denied. You know, that's the kind of leader I want to follow. As opposed to somebody like, look, can you give me $20? Ain't you the pastor?
You be paying for
Yeah, because the pastor's like the parents of those members.
Yes.
He's styled as the shepherd.
Yes.
You've never known a sheep feed a shepherd. You've never seen it.
You're absolutely right.
Now, maybe somebody out there, a theologian, can maybe find something deeper than what I just explained, but the shepherd carries the sheep.
Yes, right.
He guides them to greener pastures.
Right.
He don't guide them to no drought. Now, that's the way I understood it. Now, I'm nobody's genius, but I'm nobody's dummy either. But I've always known that's why Christ uses that analogy. Because the shepherd will leave that whole flock to go get that one sheep that done wandered out there and pick him up and carry him all the way back and get him back in the
take care of him. You're right. You're absolutely right. And like you said, we gotta be mindful. We gotta take care of some things, even the smallest of things that we need to be accountable for. And I was reading someplace and I was still reading about debt, and not trying to change the subject.
Oh no.
Even the smallest of debt, we have to be conscious of it, because that small little debt, that bill that you owe can grow into something astronomical.
Mountain to molehill.
That's right. I was reading on the internet where this man had a bill for just $13 that ended up on his credit bureau report, ended up being $1,300. Tell us about that, Pastor.
Woo.
You see how that could grow? And the debt, the creditor, probably assuming that the hospital is not going to continue to send you a letter for $13, you know, and certainly they're just going to do what? Turn it over to the credit
to collection agency, and it's still accruing interest. It's like, you know, sometimes people think because the bank comes and repo the car, that's the end of it. No, it's not. They keep running that balance until they sell it again. They keep accruing interest because they look at it like this: until it gets sold, and to get out of your name, you still own that car.
Mhm.
You just can't use it.
Mhm.
And that's how, like you were bringing up that analogy. People think, well, I ain't paying it no more. I'm done with it.
Mhm.
But that don't close out the issue.
Mhm.
You still may have interest. You may have fees accruing on it that they're entitled to collect or file a judgment against you for that plus interest. Or it might be rent, it might be a mortgage. But you have a responsibility to, like you said, take care of it before it becomes uh, from a molehill to a mountain. It's just the way it is. You have to. It's the little foxes that can spoil the branch.
And it's just as hard to get that off of your credit report as it is something big on there, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And
Mm-hmm.
they're just not willing to. You got to go through the same red tape
Mm-hmm.
as if you had borrowed 20, 30, forty
That's right.
thousand dollars. And they're gonna harass you the same way.
That's right.
That $13 that you could have easily have paid, but sometimes you don't get the bill for the $13, or even if you get it, you probably just put it over there and said, "I'll pay it sometime," or da da
Mm-hmm.
da da da. And sometimes you don't even get the 13. If you did, you got it one time, you
Mm-hmm.
forgot it, or you didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But still, you're gonna have just as much problem with that little $13 if you don't get it and you're not responsible for it enough to take care of it, as you would, and it'll roll over like you said, $1,300 that you got to pay for $13.
Because had you done what you're supposed to do from the beginning, it would never got that high. You know, you and here again, I do it all the time. It's just like you could have an issue, and you may keep saying to yourself, "I'm delivered. I got this. I'm all right. I'm all right."
Mm-hmm.
But then 3 months later, it's done got worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's done got worse than it had been had you took care of it when you first knew you had the problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just like your health. You can start out just a little small pain in your back, but you keep denying it and not handling it. Then you find out you got cancer. It's done spread to your
Yeah,
body.
yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's done
Yeah,
spread all over your
yeah,
body.
yeah, yeah. It's the little. You're absolutely right. So we just have to just be mindful and be careful and just do what we got to do to take
Mm-hmm.
care of business.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of business and be serious about this business of debt. There is hope though,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's just certain things that you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
There is hope.
It is. There's a way out.
Yeah, and we can do the workshops, like you said, and we do it right here on the station. You come at least
Mm-hmm.
once a month
Mm-hmm.
to try to tell us or try to help us out of some of this stuff. And like you said, pastors need to listen to these.
You need it. You need it. You need to take a break. I know they love to have their anniversaries, their appreciation services, but you wonder why your members don't have any money to contribute because we perish for the lack of knowledge.
And you know what? I was just thinking about this. Sometimes, as you said that, sometimes the members always want to give to the pastor. This is something that the pastor can give to the people.
To the people.
Give them a workshop.
That you, in 6 months' time, your members got money to put up their $100 or $1,000 because they done found out how they can save and get their financial future back in order. And I would say this is a proven ground of whether does a pastor love the members. Because if I love my members, I want my members to prosper. I want my members to be able to pay their rent. Not only pay their offerings, but pay their rent, pay their light bill, so they won't come looking at the church, looking all pitiful and sad. This is the proving ground to all these preachers out here with these big titles, chief apostle, master prophet, whatever you call yourself, and you have people following you, or people in your own congregation that they're facing foreclosure right now. There's preventative measures in place now. They don't even have to lose their home in foreclosure. Do you know there's a program right now that's called the foreclosure fund that you can apply for money to staff off fund the foreclosure of your home.
Wow.
Right here in North Carolina. It's called the North Carolina Foreclosure Fund. But we don't cover this stuff in the church. It's not all spiritual. It's a balance. I say that everywhere I go preach. I say it everywhere I do a workshop. I think it's 3 John 3:1. That is the most perfect example of the walk with Christ. It says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper, be in good health, right, even as your soul prospers." Yes. That says a balance. You're not running around here speaking in tongues and prophesying, and you ain't even got food in your cabinet. It says, even as your soul prospers. So that means that I could go to the hospital, and if somebody's sick, maybe pray and touch and agree, God touch their body and heal them. But at the end of the day, I can go out there to KFC and get me some chicken. That's all right. Because even as my soul is prospering, I'm able to take care of myself or be a blessing to someone else. And I say that all the time. So I'm urging anyone today that you will listen by the sound of my voice. I want you to reevaluate your goals for your congregation, your community. If you're over an organization and you know of colleagues, you know of family members that are in credit issues, your credit scores are so low they blow the computer up. You need this. You need to contact Credit Repair Education Services, and we'll be happy to work out the details of logistics to come down for your group, your church, and do a credit repair workshop. And we allow, after we go over the training, this is training. You know, this is training for you. This is not for nobody that, you know, is sitting on $2 million. They don't even need it. This is for you. The people that are out there today, there's probably some of you listening today, you what is called the working poor. You miss one paycheck, you lose everything you got. This gives you that training, how to survive in the toughest of times.
Pastor Derek, how important is debt counseling with couple in the marriage counseling?
Oh God, that's more important than the marriage license. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay. And
I know a lot of people, they're gonna hit the floor when they heard that, but to me, that's more important, or just as important. Let me say that, because I don't want to bombard the station with a bunch of calls. You know, that guy you had there talking about is more than, but it is.
What today? The phone you can't call.
They can't call, so that's good.
We're working on it though. We're working on it.
So that kind of worked out good.
You can't call in right now, but today you lucky.
I'm lucky.
You lucky.
Because somebody will call and say, you know, that reverend said, but let me say this.
But today on the radio, you just can't call today.
They just can't call today. They might call tomorrow.
They may call tomorrow, or the next time you come in and we're on the radio, they'll be able to
they're
call.
They're going to have no questions.
Right.
But let me say this to all those that, and even especially those that are they're looking to get married, and those that want to get married, or those that are already married. The one of the first things that I tell people, and I think I said it, and I covered on one of the prior shows, you have to kind of step back from all of because people, and they may disagree with this too. Getting married is nothing but a contract. It's a legally binding contract. We try to make it a cataclysmic, earthquake, earth-shattering, supernatural situation, but the reality of it is, that's why if the marriage does not work, you got to go to court. And you go to court over what? Contracts. That's a civil matter. It's a contract. At the end of the day, we put a lot of stuff in there that doesn't have anything to do with a contract. You know, the horse-drawn carriage, the big, beautiful wedding cake, the $4,000 wedding gown, you know, the $500 tux, the bridesmaids' dresses matching the napkins on the reception table. That has nothing to do with your future. And I cover this in our workshops, and it turns into, they be laughing so hard they got to hit the floor because they know they've been guilty of it. I see people do it all the time as a minister and as a pastor. They put more time, more energy, more money in planning one day than they do planning their financial future together. Some of them are 2 years into the marriage and still owe money on the wedding and the reception. So that's why that goes back to what I said earlier. To answer your question, that's more important than the marriage itself. The ceremony, what I mean. it's more important than all that. You can go to the justice of peace and get a magistrate and a witness and call it a day. And take all that money that you trying to go out here and impressing a bunch of folks that half of them wish it don't work anyway. They're hoping it fails. The other half don't even want to be there. And then you got a few that wishing it was them. So you can save all that buffoonery, take that $5,000 or $10,000 and buy y'all first home together. Or sit down and realize, okay, look, you owe Capital One, I owe Bank of America. You owe, pay off your car, babe, and we're going to get this that's right. This year here, as they say, we're going to get this year here. We'll get that after we get married. We'll pay that off. And then that way, when the first child comes, we don't have to worry about that. Yeah. But people don't do that. They get so caught up on a bunch of buffoonery. They don't have nothing to do with the wedding or the marriage, should I say. They put more into the ceremony than the matrimony. Then it turns into a divorce.
But that would be good. That's getting back to my question though. Isn't that a good piece that where the pastor could come in?
Very much so.
With the counseling and say, you guys need to talk about that, because that's going to be the thing that's going to tear it apart.
Exactly.
If it's going to be, they said that's the number one thing that tears a marriage apart. So why don't we let that be the number one topic that we talk about as marriage counselors, pastors, or whoever they talk to try to keep it together. Now, where are you all at financially?
Well, I'll be honest with you, and I can't speak for any other minister, but I can speak for myself. When they come to me holding hands in my office, talking about getting married, I cover it from A to B. Well, A to Z, actually. And sometimes I think they wonder whether they need to get married or not. A lot of ministers, especially pastors, sometimes they just as bad as the members or the people who want to get married. They are so emotionally wanting to see this big, beautiful facade that they detach from reality. And I go at it from the back end. You know, son, do you pay your own bills, first of all? Daughter, what kind of debt do you have? I ain't worried about no cake, I ain't worried about no limo. Let's get back to what type of bills do you guys have? You know, I even go as far, I asked one couple, which one of y'all in here is crazy? Who in here is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? You know, you know, somebody got to give the couple a reality check. And so many times I have had some that said, look, you know what, we better wait. Because there's some stuff that come up in that session that neither one of them didn't even know about each other. They just, sometimes a situation where somebody done lied on God to the person, to my God said, God ain't said nothing. God ain't said a word. God told them to sit down and wait. And in talking to them, and then what I do, I let each person address that issue with that person sitting in front of them. And they be like, oh, wait a minute, Tony, you didn't tell me that. I didn't know you owed child support from another child. And it's because sometimes it get down to this. During what they call the engagement period, they don't really know each other. It's like going on a job interview. They let their best side show. But they don't let that side show where he don't even keep his room clean. She can't even bake a cupcake. She can't even pay bills. He don't even know how to hold down a job past 6 months. He ready to get married now before he lose his job. And then the truth come out. And then she end up taking care of me. I lay all the cards on the table. And sometimes I've had about 3 that kind of called it off until they got themselves together. Because it was a situation where, you know, people get so adamant about, I think a lot of times people worry, it's almost like in school, you worry about peer pressure. You worry about what folks think. Listen, what folks think don't pay your bills. You got to know yourself. You don't get married to satisfy the tongue waggers. You get married because, look, we got ourselves in a situation now where we're prepared to build our empire, to spend the rest of our lives together. But if you get married just to impress people or fool people, you fooling yourself. And you're impressing no one. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be you and that person either fighting each other or fighting the world together. So when I meet with somebody, and I guess probably if they don't want a real world analogy, don't come to me because I give it, and it'll be biblically sound, but as well as wise facts,
which will include finances.
What was include finances, because that would tear home all to pieces. Or like you see on the news, it get down to a situation where she's cheating on him because the guy got more money than he got. Or he done plotted to kill her for the insurance money. I've seen on the news, they get to digging and get to digging. 3 months prior to her death, he done took out a $2 million insurance policy, making him the sole beneficiary. And you know, if it's accidental, that's double indemnity. So that means a $2 million policy, which is double indemnity, pays $4 million because she done accidentally slipped off the cliff. So you know, you people have got to. I think the thing with that, when you brought about the marriage counseling, and like I said, I covered it in the seminars. All of that stuff has to be addressed. The real way to do it, the proper way to do it, let all that reception, the limo, the tux matching the napkins, and the bow ties matching the curtains in the reception, that should be final. That should be the last thing. But so many times, I see this sometimes too, either the lady or the guy has put so much pressure on the other person to marry them. They feel like they don't have no other choice but to go ahead and get married. And that's a flaw right there.
I tell you, there's so much still to talk about.
All
I
the
mean,
time.
we could talk. We could just talk.
I'll wait another